I'm standing outside of our classroom right now, just outside the classroom window. Let me show you where I am. There's our classroom window. And I'm out here to talk to you today about the weather. So today is actually Wednesday of last week. For me it's today, but for you it's Wednesday of last week that I was taking this video. And it's kind of cold out here. I'm feeling really chilly and I wish I had a jacket on because it's getting a little nippy in the air. It's also feeling a little bit wet. I feel like I get some tiny little raindrops on my face, but it's not really raining. It just feels a little moist out here. The other thing that's going on, you can see in the sky, when we think about the weather, we always want to see what's going on in the sky because that's kind of where our weather comes from. So you can see it's kind of overcast today. It's not very sunny. When I say it's overcast, that means that there's just sort of general clouds up there. I'm not seeing like big fluffy clouds that I would say, oh, that one looks like a dragon or a snail or something. I'm just seeing kind of clouds covering most of the sky. And it's also a little bit windy. You guys can see my hair is kind of blowing a little bit. What do you notice about your weather today? I want to show you a nifty little device that I have planted outside of our classroom window. And right now I have it turned so we can see it. And it's not going to give us an accurate reading because I just planted this. But this is called a thermometer. You've probably seen these. These let us know what the temperature is. And our temperature is measured in numbers and it's measured in degrees. Now, the funny thing about temperature is that we're a little bit like the countries of Vinland and Shetland still to this day with temperature, because there are two different ways that people measure temperature. And this thermometer actually shows us both of them. You see that on one side we have a little F. That stands for Fahrenheit. That's the scale that we use here in the United States. But we are one of the only countries that uses that kind of temperature. Everybody else looks over here for Celsius. I'm going to tell you how to remember the difference in a minute, or how to, kind of what the temperature means for each of these in a minute. This one right now is showing us, you see that there's this little red, boy, I hope I'm not shaking the camera too much. I'm really cold and I'm shivering. This little red ball in here, this is the mercury in the thermometer. And when mercury gets hot, it rises up and it'll show us that the temperature gets warmer and warmer. And when it's cold, it goes down. Right now, this hasn't been outside very long, so it's showing us more like what the temperature in the classroom was, because that's where the thermometer was for a long time. I've come inside where I can be a little bit more comfortable to tell you guys about what the weather feels like at different temperatures. I want you to sit and close your eyes, and I'm going to give you something to imagine. I want you to imagine a day where you have been outside and you have been so hot. It's so hot that you might feel kind of sweaty, damp, or maybe you just really need to find some shade. It probably makes you feel tired and thirsty. Maybe you don't even want to run around, it's so hot. A day like that would be probably about 90 degrees. We don't have a lot of 90-degree days here in Fairbanks, but we do have a few every summer. It's really hot when it's 90 degrees. Now I want you to think a little bit about a day where it's sort of just perfect outside. It's kind of sunny out, but maybe it's not too hot. You feel like being outside and you could just be out there forever, and you're wearing just a t-shirt, maybe even some shorts, and it feels really good. That's about 70 degrees. 70 degrees feels pretty nice. You almost, if you're like me and run a little on the cool side, you might almost want maybe just a long sleeve shirt to put on if the clouds come overhead. That's about 70 degrees. Now think of a day where when you go outside, it feels a little bit chilly. Not too cold, but it's a little chilly. You feel like maybe you want a sweater, maybe even a jacket. It feels like maybe fall is coming, or maybe it's springtime, and you kind of need something on. Doesn't feel good to have just a t-shirt. That's about 50 degrees. Now, we're gonna move into the imagining of a time you've gone outside, probably in the winter, or even close to now. We're getting there. You go outside and the puddles have turned into little ice puddles. And it's definitely cold outside, and you definitely want your jacket. But some of you guys, because you're really tough, feel like maybe you still don't need a jacket. But if you're out there for a while, you kind of wish you had one. That is about 32 degrees or colder. We know that it's 32 degrees or colder because of the ice on the ground. Because water freezes when it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I want to talk about Celsius. We don't use Celsius here, but if you ever travel to a different country, people will be using Celsius and they'll talk about the weather in Celsius. So if we go back to that day where we're really so hot outside, it's so hot you can hardly even stand it. If it's Celsius, it's 30 degrees. Now, if it gets a little bit cooler to the point where you feel just about perfect, really comfortable outside, just a t-shirt, shorts, you don't need a jacket really at all, that's about 20 degrees Celsius. Now if you think about feeling just a little bit cold, and you're feeling like you probably want a jacket, but maybe you don't need a jacket, but maybe you do need a jacket, that's going to be more like 10 degrees Celsius. And now we get to the cold day, the day where there's ice instead of puddles. That would be 0 degrees Celsius or colder. Do you notice something about Celsius? It seems like it makes just a little bit more sense to me. 0 is that point where it's so cold that the water freezes and you have ice instead of puddles, and that's 0. That seems like the bottom, the base. It's cold. You go up 10 degrees, you're okay. It's still a little cold, but you're fine. 20 degrees, you're perfect, and 30 degrees, it's getting to almost be too hot. That seems like a little easier to remember, doesn't it? Sometimes I wish we used Celsius, but we don't. We use Fahrenheit, and it's a little bit different. It's a little bit harder to remember what those temperatures mean. But lucky for us, we live in it every day. So if we go and check our temperature every day and see what the weather is, go outside and feel the temperature on your body and on your skin, and then you look at a thermometer, you're gonna start to get a sense of what it means when someone says, oh, it's 60 degrees outside. Now, according to what I just told you, 60 degrees, it's probably not gonna feel too cold, but it's not gonna feel too warm either. We're getting up to the point now where we have some 60 degree days in the afternoon, but it's starting to get more down into the 50s during the day, and probably even close to the 30s at night, because some people are waking up with frost in their yard. That tells us it's gotten down to 32 degrees or colder. Be on the lookout for a handwork project from Ms. Scala that will help you start getting a sense of what the temperature is.